Y'all, and welcome back. It is Dr. aka EDU_curlz here, and today we are here for the final installment of things I am taking with me into 2026. Let's get into this. Okay, I'm really excited about this one in particular because this is more about like health supplements and routines and things like that that matter a ton for me. I'm gonna start with just kind of talking a little bit about different things that I experienced in this last year that really taught me about my body differently. And I wanna start with that framing because it matters a ton with like how I got to where I am currently. So in this past year, I, as most of you know, was really working on in 2025 and 2024 losing weight. At the end or the beginning, was it the beginning of 2024? Maybe it was the end of 2023. I started the journey where I was like, I need to lose weight and I need to figure this out. 2024, I lost an extensive amount of weight. And then in 2025, I started to plateau. And what I learned in that time really was that from 2024 to 2025 in particular, I was like on this amazing journey of like really advanced weight loss. I think I can pull up my graph and I can maybe show this to you so you can see it. But I started graphing my weight loss significantly. And so what I did across my year was I kind of measured in metric, like at the beginning of 2024 to 2025. So this is the graph. For that, I started the year at 195.5 at the beginning of 2024. But when I was through 2023, I was very, very high at 222, 224, 243 is the highest that I got. And then from December of 2023, probably to December of 2025, 2025, I was on a steady decline to like 185, 186 in that range. And that is probably my ideal body weight. But then I began to plateau. And so I started trying different things with my doctor to work on this. And so from January of 2025 to July of 2025 is when I lost the most weight. Or the most significant amount of weight because of how much weight I had already lost. So I went from 187 to 169, which is pretty significant in weight loss. But then after July, I began to increase again. So I went back up and am now back at where I was at the start of 2025. So I'm in the 190 range, 188 to 190. And so now I'm working on bringing it back down. And I've had a lot of plateau and peak. What was happening at the same time is I was experiencing hair thinning, I was experiencing some skin things, and then my period started being irregular again, but I had been on low estrogen hormone birth control for a really long time because I really struggled with irregular periods. Up until that point, though, I had never been diagnosed with anything medically inclining that. Well, I started a GLP-1 for a small period of time. And when I started that GLP-1, my period went away completely. So I stopped taking it. I only did it for like 2 months, I want to say, but that was the same period of time that I went from January to July with my lowest, like the drop in weight. I had so much drop in weight. And while it worked for me in weight drop, it changed so much about my body that it was like a scary reality for me. That may be in the journey for me later. I don't really know, but right now it's too terrifying to even try, so I stay away from it. But either way, that caused me to have a lot of questions around like, okay, what's actually going on in my body? What I was also experiencing at the same time was a very high stress zone. So from July to now, I've been in one of the highest stress spaces in my life, in my career. I will say that I have had a lot of different stressors, from being an assistant principal to being a grade level principal to being like needing to operate as more of like the interim principal, having a lot of extra responsibilities. That part in education is not foreign to me, but the level of stress that I experienced in those roles did not feel as significant as this past year. And that could be hormonally induced because I've learned more about my body and I understand my body more. It also could be that I've learned to protect my peace. When I was 20, I was willing to do a lot more than I am in my 30s. And so that is a reality that kind of set in this year. So I went on a mission to talk to my OB, to talk to my PCP, and really figure out what is going on with my body. It had to have been maybe 2 months ago, quite literally, that my PCP and I started talking about how I would have these afternoon sugar crashes when I was in high stress zones. So I would do things like snack on nerd clusters or jelly beans or chocolate really excessively at those specific periods of time. And what I discovered is my insulin was spiking and my cortisol levels were spiking, and they were basically reacting with each other. So my cortisol levels, which is your stress hormone, would spike. I would then need sugar as I was going through that spike. That would then spike it again, and it just became an unhealthy cycle that also triggered the hold of weight around my stomach. So if you were to look at me now, you'd be confused with like, where is your weight going? It's only really in my stomach. It's not really living in my legs. It's not really living in my arms. It's not really living in my face, but it is definitely living in my stomach. And that was really, really like a warning for me. My doctor was like, we've tried a lot of things. You eat really healthy. Like, I'm not really worried about some of these other things, but it's not going away. And so we had a conversation about, okay, let's go to the OB and figure out hormonally if there's something happening. We did a full panel. There was something that came back in my estrogen panel that was confusing, and so I got sent to an OB. In the conversation with my OB, she ends up doing an ultrasound as we talked a little about my history of my periods, my hormones, things I was experiencing with my hair and my skin, etc. She's like, I just want to do it and see what's there. We went and I scheduled my ultrasound, and then we scheduled our virtual debrief. And what we discovered is my ovaries look like those of someone who has PCOS. And so my doctor actually said, like, you have PCOS. You don't have a ton of symptoms of it. So you don't have like the excessive facial hair, the discoloration stuff. You don't have a lot of that stuff happening. You don't have a lot of like, you've actually gotten really regular with birth control. And maybe that's because of how young I got on it. I got on it really, really early without a diagnosis because I had irregular periods. It was just something that my PCP had said when I was like 20, that he was like, we should just try this and see if it normalizes your periods. And it did. But either way, in that process, I learned that I had PCOS. And so I also learned that my blood sugar in the past year or two has had a very different like cadence of raise to low, raise to low, raise to low. So when I was losing weight, I lost a significant amount of weight the first time, and my blood sugar didn't really move. It really wasn't until I got on the GLP-1 and later on that the weight dropped. And so while the GLP-1 or the blood sugar dropped, the GLP-1 helps with blood sugar, I needed to find holistic or trial holistic ways before I decided if I wanted to go back to it, because I had such a negative experience with how it impacted my actual period. And so that is kind of where I got to in supplements in this year. So we're gonna first talk about like tonics and some things that I've been doing that work really well for me. And some of these are not just for PCOS. Some of them are just for like regular skincare, regular care, bone health, etc. The first that I'll say is the Theory collagen, like the liquid collagen that's sugar-free. This one I really, really love. It's sugar-free, dairy-free, no gluten, soy, and all natural flavors. But it's a skin, hair formula. Basically, it revitalizes skin, hair, and nails. It has 18 amino acids. It replenishes collagen and reduces fine lines and wrinkles. I will say that this, has been a game changer for my skin. I take 1 packet of this probably every other day. I actually need to take it today, so I will take one out. And that has been like a part of my routine, my morning routine, that has really, really helped. And that's just overall health. The second thing that I'll say is my CMOS gel, which is for immunity, energy, and gut support. Those are the things that it may support. This is the true CMOS. I order this pretty regularly. It has about 10 calories, and I just take 2 tablespoons a day. And I do this every single morning with this. And it is, so good. Like so good. First of all, it tastes really good, which is something that is really hard. This is the mango and pineapple flavor, but it tastes so good. And so I absolutely love this stuff. Overall, it has gotten my gut health to a really good spot. The second 2 things are tonics. So while I have had more regular periods with birth control, I've also really struggled with cramping and things like that. And so I have taken the Mary Ruth's Organic Women's Wellness Menstrual Support Liquid Extract Tonic. It's an herbal blend, and it really just has some really nice herbs in it. Raspberry leaf, stinging nettle leaf, thistle, licorice root, meadow sweat, French rose, a ton of like just lavender flower, herbal blends. The second one is Glucose Gone, which is something that I recently started, but is based with berberine, ceylon, cinnamon, chromium, buttermelon, and turmeric. This is probably going to stay in my system or in my routine more because I like the idea of a tonic. They just work better for me. As a part of my routine, I take 2 ounces of this a day. But I also have a berberine pill. It's just not something that I'm going to continue to use once I'm done with it. But this one I am. I'm going to keep this integrated into my routine. The other thing that I take pretty regularly is elderberry gummies. This is the immune gummies with vitamin C and zinc, and I just take this probably one every day. And this is really just helpful to make sure that I don't get sick. That is like the main priority of using this. I hate being sick, and I really haven't been that sick in the last year. I'm actually going to take one right now. And that has been really, really great for me overall in a routine. Okay. Next are just some different things that I use. These are the 2 that I use a lot. Liquid IV for hydration. It's an electrolyte mix. And I use the sugar-free ones because I don't want a ton of sugar in mine. And then the Super Calm. Super Calm is an ashwagandha, L-theanine, magnesium glycinate, and vitamin D3 mix. I love both of these. They're integral to my routine and things that I use a ton and matter a ton for my body. The last that I'll say is the Bloom Greens and Superfoods. And I will probably take this once a week. I don't take it a ton because I don't need it a ton. But it is like a pretty good drink mix. It's for digestion, bloating, and energy. But Bloom is really, really nice. And I order a multi-pack that just really comes on auto subscription with my Amazon orders. And so that is that. So those are like some of the maintenance pieces that I'm using there that really, really help. I'm going to now talk about like supplements that I'm taking. And I actually forgot one, so I'm going to pause and be right back. I'm back. Okay. So the thing that I went to go get was my Grün Superfoods Greens gummies. I actually think this is what I'm taking with me into 2026, and the Bloom I will literally not use anymore. They kind of serve the same exact purpose, which is why I say that. And I prefer to eat my Grüns sugar-free because they work. There's about 8 little gummy bears that come in here, and they're just great. Honestly, they taste good, and they're really good in that way, and so that is really that. So Bloom, while I loved her in her purpose in previous iterations of my health journey, it's the same base, so I'm switching to fully go Grüns in that routine. With that being said, let's now talk about some of these other supplements. So the first that I'll start with is the Bioma probiotics. This is only my 2nd bottle, and not just started it, but I'm like maybe a week or 2 into it. This is a 30-day supply of 60 vegan probiotic pills. And this changed my gut instantly. Like when I tell you the first 3 weeks of this was a killer, it was a killer. I think I just really found out what was happening in my body. And this is supposed to support bacteria balance, gut health, and weight loss support. And so I'm curious what this is going to look like when I get to the end of this bottle, because I think that's when I'll start to see if the weight loss support is really something that works for me. The other thing that I take is just my regular over-the-counter allergy relief, because I have really bad allergies, and I also take a nasal support, and so both of those work to service that. Then I have my birth control. That is what I take on a regular basis. And then I kind of move into my vitamins overall. I take an assortment of vitamins, and we'll talk a little bit about what they are for a few reasons. First up is I started the Black Girl PCOS Dietary Supplement Relief gummy, which has inositol and vitamin B12. I have not seen a crazy difference in this yet, but I am very excited to see what this is going to do to my body once I am like a month in. This is the first bottle that I'm at, and so I'm curious to see what that looks like in a few months. with that, I started taking a blend of things that helped monitor the bloating and the struggles that I have health-wise with my PCOS. And the very first one of that is berberine. I will probably switch to the tonic, but this is a really good supplement if you have never used berberine in the process. You can take this 2 to 3 times a day. So while I take the tonic first thing in the morning, I will come back in with some of these vitamins currently if I need to through the day, or supplements through the day. But this one is really just to help monitor like the blood sugar parts of things. For me, the same thing with my omega-3s. This I will keep. This is for cardiovascular health, immune system, and brain health support. But I will keep omega-3s in my routine along the PCOS because it really helps to balance a lot of that. And then I also keep the inositol plus. And I will keep this because it supports women's healthy weight balance and hormonal balance. And that's specifically what this is targeted for. So I actually use these together. I don't separate them. I haven't had any issues with my healthcare physician saying like, no, don't use one or use only one or versus the other. And so right now, these are both in my routine. I will probably let go of the berberine, but these 3 will stay in my PCOS like things needed. All right. Then I have my daily vitamins that I take. So I take the Black Girl Vitamins Calm Girl Ashwagandha with zinc. And I take that every day, literally, one gummy. And then I take once a day, which is a dietary supplement enriched with vitamin D3. And then I take a hair, skin, and nails. And this is passion fruit flavored. And then I was previously taking a D3 supplement. I am actually going to come off of that because my vitamin D has actually been through the roof. And so my doctor has been like, I actually need you to chill on the vitamin D. So that is probably what will happen there. But that is what I've been using. And then the last thing that I've been taking just per request of my doctor is the metformin. And I take this at night just to see how it like helps support lowering my blood sugar. I think the biggest things that I will say that I'm taking with me in 2026 is just the awareness around my body and what's happening with my body overall now that I know that I have PCOS and I'm navigating some of those things. I'm also on a journey to grow my hair back, and so I have to be cognizant about what chemicals I use and supplements that I use that support that or don't support that, and that's a really big important part of my journey as well. The last thing that I will say that has become like a really big piece of my journey is my fitness journey. I'm an avid workout every single day human. Saturdays and Sundays, I normally just do like long walks, but Monday through Friday, I'm going to lift and I'm going to work out. I've started integrating some more like low exertion exercises because spiking your cortisol can also trigger your insulin resistance. And sometimes a workout can do that. And so I've done things like build more stretches. Like today is actually a Friday and I'm going to build a stretch into my day, and that's gonna be more of what I do in that routine, and then a very long walk. So I'll do a 60-minute long walk, and then I will do mostly stretch and yoga work for my hips as a part of my routine. But those things matter a ton to finding the balance in your health and the balance in your overall well-being. I've also integrated a lot of things that are like mindful, so gotten back into building out my agendas, gotten back into building out my journal, gotten back into building into those systems because those things matter a ton for like my daily routine and daily wellness. I've also stopped working out on an empty stomach. So I've started fueling my body first and then working out. I am an avid core power user. I will not run away from it, but every time that I am going to work out early in the morning and it is almost fasted, I take a protein bar, I take a handful of berries of some sort, and I take a core power, and that is a necessity to my routine, and it doesn't really change and it doesn't really move, and those parts matter a ton as well to my routine. So really those are the things that I'm taking with me. It's stretching, it's more yoga, it's more walks, it's more wellness conscious work around my diet, around the supplements that I consume, etc., and that part matters a ton. So if you don't know anything else about your health and your well-being, those things are the things that matter. So thank you guys so much for tuning in as always. I really, really appreciate you out, and have a blessed rest of the day. Bye guys.